Hello everyone, welcome back to my review. As always, I'm here with my review for Wicked 2. My own wand. How did that appear? But anyway, I'm here giving you my review for Wicked 2, which I got to see last week with one of my closest friends, his wife, and her cousins, because it was her birthday. Shout out to you, Claire. I hope this video reaches her. But this is just my general impressions from watching Wicked 2, Wicked for Good. I think it was Wicked 2, Wicked for Good, or I forgot the actual short title of the name. But just my general impressions with the movie is that I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it did a very good, strong job for how it wanted to tell its own personal story, as well as it telling a bit of a retreading of the events of the Wizard of Oz, which for me, when watching the movie, I was like, okay, tread lightly. That's one of the most beloved movies of all time. What is happening? It was one of those like, okay, tread lightly, because it was going to tackle that familiar ground. But what I really do believe really makes this movie really surprisingly fun is the continuing in the thematic weight and the understanding of John M. Chu's adaptation of the Broadway musical of Wicked, which was of course greatly inspired from the original 1939 Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz. So, and I also have the first Wicked movie Blu-ray around, but I should have grabbed that in prep. But anyway, one of the things I thought this movie did surprisingly well, in my view, is the fact that it is able to still keep the storytelling and the momentum and the characters without thematically in my mind, feeling like this is a retreading, or how it doesn't compare in relation to the first movie, which is hard to do because the first Wicked, in my opinion, was such, as someone who never really saw the musical or seen much of these Oz movies, aside from the original 39 version and the terrible and the rather really bad version of the Oz Great and Powerful from Sam Raimi, which I was not a fan of, back from 2013, is that this movie is able to carry the same sense of strength, sweetness, and momentum within the same first movie, and how it continues it narratively all the way through. I thought all the performances were really great. All the musical stuff and everything was phenomenal as always. I mean, Ariana Grande and I forgot the other lady who at this moment just escaped my mind. I forgot, are continuously terrific. Everyone in the cast is great. Michelle Yeoh is great as just kind of a schemer-esque character. Jeff Goldblum, as far as I'm concerned, I can't keep a straight face when he's the character of Oz. He's just deliciously funny, and every scene with him, I can't stand still. I'm cracking up watching him. He's genuinely hilarious in this role, and I love every little ums and ahsums he has in it, and it's just so good. The rest of the cast I thought was really good. The way they told their own unique interpretation of the Wizard of Oz storyline was whenever they did dip their toes into that, for me was like, I didn't really love how they were doing that for certain characters, but the way they would do that within the storytelling at hand, especially how the movie ends and wraps up and everything, is actually mostly, for the most part, really good. Like how it keeps it a little bit more at arm's distance at various times, dipping into it. And whenever it does, it feels like it's doing its own version of it. In the original 39 version, it's like, oh, if only I had a heart. This version is like, oh, if only I had a heart to feel the way I would when we kill her. And that is how you do an adaptation to make it enough different. Also, like the Cowardly Lion actually is like a full-on visual CGI lion. Like this bad boy, aren't ya? Anyway, I'm sorry, he was napping. But it does at its own rate. So it's its own little attempt of telling the events of its own Wizard of Oz, but it also makes it smartly different within its own right. Otherwise, it would have been like a retreading of what we were already seeing, or it felt like its own, or it feels like it actively goes against it. It doesn't. It feels like the director, John M. Chu, respects the original craft for what it is and wants to do his own telling of it at a smart distance, such as what the examples I already gave, like the visual of Effectively Lion, or another really good one I really enjoyed for this movie is how it kept the visual look of Dorothy from a distance, always from the back, always in soft focus. It's not willing to overlap the two where it feels like it's an imitation or trying to retread it. It feels like the director respects the original, meanwhile wanting to tell his own personal lip service of his own version of this movie. And I mean, this movie isn't perfect. I feel like this movie really, if anything, it doesn't really feel like it's missing anything, but it's missing certain subjective weight to carry in between the first two movies. Because the way this movie picks up after the first, it feels like after the first movie, even though this isn't really a technical flaw in my mind, it's more like, oh, the first movie ends like that. Wonderful, great, perfect. And then towards this movie, it felt like it could have picked up right after, but it doesn't. It feels like it picks up like 5-6 years after the fact. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but for me, it feels like you're missing certain subjective storytelling or aspects at hand to fill in the gaps there. Like, it feels like there's still servicing the characters and everything, but it feels like it's trying to get to A to D, or to A to J, like alphabetically wise, but it forgets to tell you how it gets to those points in between. And because of that, I feel like this movie isn't really feeling like it's missing something, but it feels like there's another story to tell in between 1 and 2. And in my view, when watching the movie, it's like the ending, like the way this movie ends and everything, and how it ties all the way back to how it ties back into the first movie, and a lot of it, I thought it kept the emotional momentum and the craft at hand very well done. But it also feels like it's going back on certain things. I'm not going to give anything big away here, but there's a bit of a narrative twist that with the character of Oz himself, and how it relates to him and the other main character at hand is just like, we don't really need that. It feels a bit too like an awkward twist for the sake of it, and I'm personally not too fond of that. It feels like with certain storytelling beats like that at hand, where it feels like it's already making a twist for the sake of it, also doesn't make that much thematic or character sense at times. It feels like the movie wants to tell this storytelling beats, but it forgets to connect the dots within it. Like, it still makes sense for the character, but it feels like I'm missing a bit of a writing chunk of context within it. And because of that, it feels like it's telling a story that we're playing mental catch up with. And that's a bit weird at times. It's a bit frustrating at times. And whenever it does want to, and whenever certain characters are deliberately writing into the original storyline of The Wizard of Oz, at first I thought it was very, At first I thought it was very awkward and not really good. But within the context of this movie wanting to do its own kind of retreading of The Wizard of Oz, but not trying to override the original version, I feel like it did it right. Even if at times where I was like, the movie tends to over-explain itself, or tends to show too much of its hand at times. Like, you show too much of the hands or the strengths of it, then the magical illusion of it feels lesser than. Don't get me wrong, the writing is so strong, the performances are great, the musical bits are phenomenal. Ariana Grande is the standout of this movie. And there's also a big musical bit in the middle, of the like 80, 90-minute mark of this movie, where it's like, whoa, what a big, emotional, powerful scene that was. Literal applause from everyone in the theater. Movie continues, and I, as well as others in the theater, were like, what? Huh? It felt like it could have stopped, ended there, and it just kind of continued, and I was just like, whoa. Like, that's such a... It felt a bit weird like that at times, but also with, in my view, with the context of the end and everything, it oddly makes it work, even if at times I feel like you're missing context or it over-explains itself. And for what it's worth, I think I enjoyed this movie. I think it's a really good time. It's just not that, for me, it's just not that bolt out of the blue that the first movie had, or the same high of highs. The musical bits are really great. The writing is phenomenal, and so much. The singing, holy hell, are these two actresses in this movie are just spectacular. I know my cat wants to go outside right now. I will when we're done. But anyway, overall, I thought this movie was a magical maestro unto itself. Even if it's not really as tight or as emotionally as powerful as it was within the first movie. Now, granted, the ending, in my opinion, does tie it up in a neat little bow into its own, and where I go like, oh, okay. I see what it was going for there. But by the end of it, I had a very fun time with this movie. It's not perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. Do I think it's a great movie? It's on that teetering edge, but in my mind, it kind of gets there enough. The writing at hand feels a bit abrupt or breakneck or overdoes itself. It doesn't feel as consistent as the first movie. I get why some people want to say this movie is a bit disappointing, and to a degree, it kind of is compared to the first. But I would say, in my mind, it's still a good movie nonetheless, even though in my mind, it's not really a perfect or a great one. And because of that, I give Wicked for Good a 7.4 out of 10. So, yeah, that's my rating for this movie, everyone. I really hope you enjoy. And I'll have my review for Sisu 2 sometime in the near future. Till then, thank you. And remember, the Guardian Leviosa, wrong franchise. All right, cheers.